Hello, I'm Susan Pierce. I am Associate Professor of Sociology at ECU, and I co-wrote this article with Jalen Rogers.
How you doing? My name is Jalen Rogers. I recently graduated from East Carolina University in 2019 with my master's in sociology.
Our idea was to look at social media as a possible cultural tool, as it is starting to be used by activists to produce new public journalism.
The article that we wrote is relevant because, in the midst of all of this happening in the world, from the protests, from George Floyd to, COVID and reopening protests around the country, social media is being used by all sides of the token to make a point.
And there is a whole body of research now on this, and we focus on street protests, and especially street protests since 2006, which is when Facebook became more of a public tool. And this is a compendium of research that's been done across countries. So you'll see in our article that there are researchers who have studied the Tahrir Square, Cairo protests, Arab Spring in general, Occupy Wall Street, Black Lives Matter, protests in the UK, Germany, and some other countries. And this basically brings together that research to reflect on the possibility of these tools. And we found that the research kind of lays out the fact that there is this potential for public journalism to emerge from these street protests and to be a body of work that does supplant traditional or mainstream journalism.
Today I'm standing here in front of the Emerge Art Gallery, where after the June 2020 protests, they painted these murals of African American figures, and this is in downtown Greenville.
But we also found that there's something else going on, which is often mainstream or traditional journalists are collaborating with the activists so that there is something more reciprocal going on. And we also found that there are some constraints to the possibilities of this as some kind of way of producing a more democratic story for the activists. For example, the tools are being used as surveillance mechanisms by the police, by the media companies themselves, or by governments. And so the story does have some constraints to it. But we hope that this article could be used in classrooms by instructors to have evidence base of what's going on there in the street protests with public journalism. And this can actually help to enliven and inform the story of what is being produced now with the new global protests that are emerging.